From WKRG Plus, your local election headquarters, this is Politics with Pete.
Welcome in, everyone, as we continue to talk about the upcoming race for mayor in Mobile. It takes place August 26th. With us right now, County Commissioner Connie Hudson. Connie, nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
Looking forward to talking about all things going on in Mobile in this election over the next 30 minutes or so. And we'll start with maybe the most basic question is, you've been on the County Commission for 15 years. Why do you want to become mayor of Mobile?
Well, Peter, it's a calling for me. You know, with 24 years of experience, 9 years on the city council, almost 15 on the county commission, and all in local government, you know, I have a lot of experience, a wealth of knowledge, an understanding of how local government works, what's necessary, how to work, how to collaborate with others. And, you know, worked on budgets, big capital projects, economic development. I've been at the forefront of all of the major projects that have come to Mobile, Airbus and Austell, of course, being two of the largest. And I want to put that to work for the people of Mobile. You know, I think that I have the experience that I can hit the ground running, and it won't. There's no learning curve for me. I know what I'm doing. You know, there's challenges. Mobile has made a lot of progress, but there's also a lot of challenges. And the more I've moved around the city and talked to people, the more I've heard about those challenges. And I can get things done, so I want a shot at it.
Okay, there's always people who are going to say, hey, we need an outsider to come in and shake things up. What would you tell the people who might be thinking along those lines, and how experience matters in the kind of inner workings of government?
Right. Well, there again, you know, it's knowing how to get things done, what to do, who the players are. I've been on the city council. I know how that relationship should work between the mayor and the council. And I have good relationships with the current council members, and that's so important. You know, the mayor cannot do it alone. You have that body of government that you have to work with and you have to communicate with, and I would certainly want to step up those communications and work together to get things accomplished. And I think somebody from the outside coming in, you know, it will take them a while to get up to speed, probably a long while, sometimes even the first term. Mm-hmm. And then that slows things down. So, you know, hitting the ground running, having that knowledge and experience, you know, we can just keep going and keep making good things happen in the community. You mentioned the 24 years, 9 with the city, 15 with the county. What would you say your major accomplishments have been during that time frame? Well, you know, that's like asking me to pick which is my favorite child, you know. You know, I've worked very much on capital projects that have all been, I think, very beneficial to the community. You know, of course, most people are aware of the Sportsplex with the soccer complex, the aquatic center, all of that construction underway. The recycling center was a big project of mine. I'm currently working on Escatapa Hollow Park and Campground, and that to give people more recreational access to water. I think that's important. And so I think and the senior centers, of course. I've worked on 2 senior centers, and they're all near and dear to my heart. And I think I look around and see how they have impacted the lives of people in this community. And to me, that is, you know, that's what this is all about. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think that to be able to serve as mayor and to have that office and working with the council, you know, we can take that to the next level. The soccer complex has gotten some criticism because of the drainage problems that there have been out there and some extra work. What's your response to that? Well, I think that there's a misunderstanding there to some degree. The drainage issues had a lot to do with the construction. And so we have another team working on that, and these 4 new fields that are getting ready to open in August, they don't have drainage issues. So eventually we will go back with those first 3 fields and we'll do some modifications, and that will take care of that. But it's not because of where it's located, it was because of the way it was constructed. The natatorium and the water park potentially, why is that important to the people who live in Mobile? Well, it's part of the whole quality of life that people want. They want to have recreational amenities. They want to have things for their families to do, to enjoy sports in particularly. And rather than having to go out of town, you know, right now the City of Mobile Swim Association, when they host a big swim meet, they have to go over to Baldwin County because there's just not room here. And that's a shame. We're an urban city. We need to be able to compete with the other urban cities in the state of Alabama and the surrounding states, and we can do that. We just need to move forward with purpose and get these things done. And our citizens want it. I mean, the demand is huge. I mean, between the soccer community and the swim community, I hear from them all the time. And of course, Danny Cordy, the sports, authority, who is looking to book tournaments. But it's for our people as well as people who we want to come and visit this area.
Maybe one of the biggest long-term situations that the city has to deal with is losing population, or at least maintaining population. A lot of that goes to Baldwin County, and you brought up quality of life. Do you think if you had to rank them, it seems to be quality of life, concerns about crime, concerns about the schools. How do you work to stop that drain to Baldwin County and other areas?
Well, I think you have to pay very close attention to what people are saying, what the concerns are. And one thing that we need to do is look at the inventory of housing in Mobile. If we want people to move to Mobile and to live here, then we've got to have the housing availability, affordable, attainable housing. So that's in working with developers. A lot of the work that we will do is working with, is in a public-private partnership, or working with community-based organizations, because the city can't do it all, and we have to work with other people to get things accomplished. And so I think overall quality of life, it ranks up there, and that's a big umbrella. You mentioned it. It's public safety, the perception of public safety. It's the school system, the perception of the quality of education, it's infrastructure, and trust me, I've heard from a lot from people that, especially in midtown and downtown areas, about storm sewer issues and the disrepair there. And so these are all things that we need to simultaneously look at and plan for, and try to figure out a way to make improvements there, because it all comes together for the benefit of the community and drawing people to Mobile and keeping the people we've got. We don't want people to come to attract business and industry and then have a move across the bay. That's not our goal. So I'm gonna work to change that.
It seems like people are talking a lot about crime, and I'll ask you first off if the crime situation in Mobile is as bad as many people think it is. Is it more of a perception, or is it more reality? A lot of the crime stats actually show that crime and violent crime, murders, are actually significantly down, say, from 20, 30 years ago.
Well, I don't know how these, how they're categorized and how they're ranked. I know that what people see and what we see on the nightly news isn't good, and it would indicate that people have need to be concerned. And so we've got to address the crime issue, or the perception, or perception is reality, of course. But I think that there are things that we can step up and do that will help to hopefully move the needle on the crime statistics that we have.
What are some of the things you'd like to see done? Do we need more officers, for example?
I do think we need more officers, and I think that we need to go back to community policing, neighborhood policing. We need to have presence in neighborhoods, in parks, in areas that are throughout our community that have a lot of population. I even threw out the idea of perhaps having a police precinct at the mall, even, because we know that there's a lot of traffic there. But we have knowledge of, or the city has knowledge of, where these hot spots are, and we need to make sure that they are well policed, the visibility is good, and help the neighborhoods themselves with their neighborhood watch groups, with training volunteers, and getting people back out, watching out for themselves and their neighbors. And I think all of those things, we can do, and it will certainly help. I ask people everywhere I go, in meet and greets and community groups, when is the last time you saw a police cruiser move through your neighborhood? And nobody remembers.
Yeah. So
it's going back to basics here. It's neighborhood policing, and that's a start. We also have youth gun violence in our community, and that's a whole different issue, and how we deal with that.
And that's not Mobile alone.
No,
it's
this
nationwide
is
deal.
nationwide. But I think it goes back to how youth, their circumstances, their peer groups. A lot of this is gang activity, and what we do. If we need to put resource officers, work with the school system and see about improving, increasing the number of resource officers out there, just to keep an eye on what's happening and to hear. They're there to listen, but they're also there to form relationships with young people. I see that as a perfect opportunity for young people to get better acquainted with police and not be afraid, but to establish relationships. So, that would be one avenue that we would look at taking as well.
When you go back, I remember when you first started getting involved in we'll call it politics, involved the school system,
That's
right?
Right, that's right.
And what are your overall thoughts about our school system, and what is the city's role, both financially and other in helping out our school system?
Well, the school system is such a critical component to Mobile, and what happens, it's our workforce. It affects every aspect of life in our community, and I think that the city can step up and work a lot more closely. We don't control the school system. We're not their major source of funding, of course, but I think that as a city, we need to come together with the school board, work together, if it's helping them, like I said, with resource officers, or if we need to look at helping them with certain programming in the classrooms, or working with counselors on anger management, on how to resolve issues without turning to violence. If we need to plant those seeds early, then I think the city can be a part of that, and that can have a tremendous effect all the way around on the lives of young people, but their futures as well. And so we just need to be a little more proactive, a lot more proactive, let me change that, in how we go about addressing some of these problems. And we need to get to the root of the problem and work from there.
The various high schools have the academies now that are kind of coordinated with some of our industries. Would you like to see more of that as we try to develop our workforce for the industries that we have?
I think absolutely. I think that's very necessary, because it also part of the problem with young people that we see either dropping out of school or feeling hopeless or getting in with the wrong crowd. I think they need to realize that there are opportunities out there and find their niche, find a place of training, workforce development training, and help them, because that is I think that could make a huge difference too in their futures.
Yeah,
certainly.
Talking about economic development now, in Mobile over the last 20 years had a pretty good track record of bringing in some big-time industries. How do we keep that going? How do we keep the momentum going? And what would be the city, again, financial role in bringing in more companies?
Well, we have, of course, we work very closely with the Mobile Chamber, with the state of Alabama, with our higher education, airport authority. We work very, very well in Mobile, the city and the county also, as a team. And I hear over and over from a lot of the site selectors that that's not the case everywhere, and I don't really understand that, because it behooves us all to work together. And I see what we're doing, a continuance of what we're doing. Our chamber is certainly, they've got their antenna up, and they're always looking for opportunities to recruit, and we work with them very closely, and so I think that the future's bright in that respect. But there again, we've got the other issues that we deal with, with infrastructure, with housing, with quality of life, with making our community attractive to people. Because when it boils down to it, they come and they look and they think, is this where my family wants to live? Is this where I want to live? And it's very competitive. They're comparing us with the other sites that are also in contention. So, we just continue to work, and of course, it's all about incentive packages too. So it's a cost benefit. We want to make sure that we're adding jobs and opportunities, but we've got to measure that with cost as well.
And what is the financial state of the city at this point? I don't know how deeply you've been able to dig into their budget. You've got your own budget with the county to deal with, but what do you think the financial state of Mobile is right now?
Well, I think it's changing a little bit. for the last several years, we have received grant monies from the federal government, between ARPA and then the Restore Act money, and so and that's lightened the load, so to speak, and helped us to do a lot of things and address a lot of needs. But that's that's a finite pot of money, those pots of money, and so we're finding that right now the revenues are a little more flattened out. That we're having to watch things a lot more closely, and there may be some, and there's always ways to trim. We may have to do some trimming, and I think that's true of the city as well. I think it reflects the city and county. Usually, the financial state is reflected both ways for us. So we can do that. We can do that, but I think that's where we are. The expenditures are. And of course, costs continue to rise. So, and that's the other thing. When your revenues become flat and your expenditures continue to rise, then that's when you have to kind of put on the brakes.
Right. Talked a little bit about affordable housing, and there are some projects in the works that have started over the last year or so. How about blight in the city? That's one that we hear about a lot. Some of the housing that we have, that people let go, brings down neighborhoods, that kind of thing. Can the city step up in some sort of way and try to tackle this problem maybe a little more aggressively?
I think so. I think there are opportunities with a redevelopment authority that can go in, and if a property it's got contested ownership, or it's not clear title, or there are opportunities to be able to go in and take property and to develop it and put it back on the tax rolls, or develop housing, infill housing. So I think I really want to look closely. I think one of the council members had the idea, I think Council Member Carroll had the idea about the redevelopment authority, and to some degree I think it's been implemented in the city, but I think we can take that a step further. And I know there are partnerships with other developers, and even in historic districts as well. And so there are opportunities, but I think we can get a little more aggressive on that.
You mentioned infrastructure, especially in the older parts of town. And we have the penny tax in Mobile that is divided up a lot of different ways, but the 7 council members get a portion of it that's divided equally. Some say that doesn't make sense. Your infrastructure issues tend to be east of I-65. Do you look at it that way, or do you like the system set up the way it is?
Well, I think that there are needs everywhere. There are obviously more needs in some areas of the city than others, but I don't see that you would completely cut any area of the city out because of the needs that everyone has, and everybody's a taxpayer, so they deserve services as well. But I think you do have to address the more critical areas. We're going to have to assess the priorities and look at the critical areas, and we're going to have to work on those. And so where everything may not be completely equal, that it will allow us to address problems all across in every district, I think.
All right. We're speaking with Connie Hudson, one of the 4 candidates for mayor. We're going to take a short break and be right back. And we're back with Connie Hudson, County Commissioner running for mayor of Mobile. And Connie, if you are to win, you're going to kind of come in and pick up some major projects that have started under Sandy Stimpson. And let's start with the airport. What are your thoughts about moving the airport downtown? That's going to happen now. How does the city capitalize on this move?
Well, these projects that are all underway, they become mine, and I'm going to work to make sure that they are completed and as best I can on time and within budget. Now, I think that we definitely have an asset with an airport downtown. And I want to do everything within my power to make sure that it's successful, because I think that it will bring also additional economic development to our community, and hopefully it will do what with the ridership. It will change what people have complained about so long. Hopefully the fares will be impacted by that, and I think that has a large part. And we need to draw people from all around our region and throughout our metropolitan area, and being in that location, I think will be a benefit to do that.
Part of the idea is that people in Baldwin County, it's just as easy to go to Pensacola Now with the airport downtown, that's great, but if you can't get across the bridge in time, that's a problem. So what is the city's role in getting this bridge finally built?
Well, you know, the city and the county, of course, we've all been involved in that. I've served on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the group that has been very much involved, and also working with Baldwin County to set that up, to get it organized as far as everybody getting on the same page with tolls and so forth. And yeah, I think that the problem we've got right now is we're waiting on the federal government with a response on the grant funding and the TIFIA loan and all of that. And that will determine in large part what those tolls will be. And so ALDOT, of course, is leading the charge on this, but our role is to support in any way that we can, to help get information out to the citizens, and to work with the state in trying to get this accomplished. This is very important to our community. We're already experiencing traffic congestion. And if you try to go across, you know, on Friday afternoon, you'd be prepared for a wait.
Absolutely.
Or coming back even on a Sunday. But you know, we're going to keep working hard to make it happen. You know, it's been a couple of decades now, or more, maybe more like 3 decades before, you know, since it was first the idea was put out there. But eventually, I think we're going to, with our federal representatives helping us, we can get it done. All
right, another big project underway is the new Civic Center. What are your thoughts about the plans for the Civic Center?
Well, they're building it. I think it will offer a lot of opportunity for the community. Personally, you know, I was hoping that we would have a performing arts theater, you know, and I think I've stated that. But since it does not, you know, part of my goal will be to see what I can do down the road and to help to develop that. We've got a very active arts community and a lot of followers in the community that love the arts, the symphony, the opera, the ballet, and I think having that performing arts component is very important. But all of it together has great potential for, you know, with OVG and running the Civic Center and arena. I think that there's a potential to bring in some very big acts and fill those seats, and I will do everything as mayor to facilitate that and make sure it happens. Mayor
Stimson had plans to develop down by the convention center along the waterfront, talk of retail down there, maybe condominium. Not sure where that project stands exactly right now, but what are your thoughts about developing that area?
I think people are looking forward to more entertainment type of access to the waterfront, whether it's a boardwalk or some retail or restaurants or cafes or whatever, you know, to get out and be near the water. We love the water here in Mobile, and to be able to have better access, I think, is important to a lot of people that I hear from. So I think it's a great project. I know that it may still be in planning and design right now, but I think there's a lot of excitement about it, and I'm looking forward to working with the developer to see what we can do on the city side to move that along.
And Amtrak service will begin shortly to New Orleans. The city has a commitment to it. It's not huge, but what are your thoughts about Amtrak coming back and the city's financial responsibility for making that happen?
Well, I don't think there's any agreement for long-term responsibility at this point. I think up front, you know, to get it some capital money was put in to get the terminal built for it. But you know, there again, the citizens, you know, are excited about it. Those that I talked to and would use it. I think that we need that connectivity, and I think it'll be a great thing for our community. All of these things together, working together, you know, will just help us move that much further along, especially when we get the new Civic Center and arena, you know, then, you know, it'll help bring in people to come to concerts and to activities and events there as well.
What about other tourism possibilities? Our cruise industry, what would you like to see done with that? We've got Africa Town now booming as a potential tourist attraction. What are your thoughts on those?
We have a lot going on in the community. You mentioned Africa Town, you know, the county's been very much involved with that. I think there is so much potential there to develop that area, a redevelopment. You know, I've met with Mr. Cleon Jones and the group in the Plateau and Africa Town area about their thoughts, and they have a lot of input. And I think that working together, they're again collaborating, and since that area needs a revitalization, you know, one thing that I will do as mayor is create a Department of Economic Revitalization, because there are areas throughout the city of Mobile that need extra help with revitalization and bringing in business, and so you know, the Plateau area is one. You know, we've got Trinity Gardens, the DIP area, and even areas of downtown. So we want to look real closely, come up with a plan to help those communities, and then we need to execute that plan to see what we can do to revitalize and bring people back into the community and make it a place where people want to come and live and open businesses.
Yeah. We've talked a little bit about the airport and about Amtrak. Let's talk about transportation in the city itself, the WAVE transit system. What changes might need to be made there?
Well, I think it's going through an evolutionary process. You know, the city, and with the help of the chamber, has moved on to more of a micro transit, you know, on-demand type of service, and I think that's a good thing. You know, the days of the big buses, that, you know, they're not filling those buses anymore. So they need to look at how do we move into the future? How do we provide for the needs of citizens and get people from point A to point B, including those with disabilities? That how can we make that work? And I think the city, working with WAVE Transit System, we can work together to figure that out. Okay,
we've got about 45 seconds to go. Tell us why Connie Hudson is the best choice of the 4 candidates running.
Because I love Mobile. I'm in this to make it. I'm in this because I want to. I think I have the work skills, the desire, the passion, the vision, the leadership, and the ability to work with others in a way that I can get things done. My record shows that I've been able to accomplish a lot during my career, and with the help of others. I don't do it alone. Okay. And we're going to get there.
Okay, got to wrap you up. Good luck, Connie. Thanks for being with us.
Sure.
Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next time.